Love is often described as the most transformative force available to human beings, but Nietzsche warned that love can just as easily become destructive when it is born from weakness rather than strength. He believed that when someone has not learned to value themselves, their love becomes rooted in need instead of vitality. It becomes the love of a thirsty soul, searching for someone else to fill what it cannot fill on its own. And because of that, the love given is no longer nourishment. It becomes poison. Before offering your heart to another person, Nietzsche insisted that you must first learn to stand firmly within yourself. Only then does love become an expression of power rather than a cry for rescue. Nietzsche observed that most people approach relationships not from abundance, but from deficiency. They hope that another person will repair their wounds, soothe their insecurities, or provide purpose in place of the one they have not built for themselves. Instead of bringing strength to the relationship, they bring emptiness. And emptiness, when directed at another human being, does not produce healthy affection. It produces dependence, anxiety, jealousy, and a silent demand for emotional compensation. When the self is weak, love becomes an attempt to escape oneself. For Nietzsche, self-love does not mean selfishness, vanity, or indulgence. It means cultivating inner solidity through discipline, self-respect, and a commitment to personal growth. It means knowing your own mind, building your own values, and confronting your own limitations honestly. It is the process of becoming someone who is strong enough to give without losing themselves, to connect without clinging, to care without expecting to be saved in return. Without this foundation, every relationship eventually bends under the weight of unspoken expectations. He believed that the human being who lacks self-love is constantly at risk of collapsing into another person. Their affection becomes desperate rather than generous. They cling to their partner's presence because they cannot bear the silence of being alone with themselves. Their emotions become easily disturbed because their identity is fragile, held together only by external validation. In this state, love becomes a battlefield of insecurity. Every delay in response feels like rejection. Every disagreement feels like abandonment. Every moment of independence from the partner feels like a threat. This is why Nietzsche saw premature love as a danger. Before entering the profound realm of intimacy, a person must cultivate themselves into someone capable of offering something valuable. Love, he believed, should not be used as a substitute for the inner work that one avoids. It should be a consequence of that work. When someone who has not achieved self-respect attempts to love, they inevitably seek in the other person a solution for their own internal disarray. And this always results in suffering, because no partner can complete what the self has left undone. In contrast, the person who has learned to love themselves approaches relationships with an entirely different energy. Their love does not come from hunger, but from overflow. They do not demand constant reassurance, because their sense of worth does not depend on another person's attention. They do not cling or control, because they do not fear being alone. They understand that love is not possession, but coexistence. When two self-loving individuals come together, the relationship expands both of them, rather than shrinking one to fit the needs of the other. Nietzsche's highest vision of love was not the comfortable love of security or the sentimental love of dependency, but the powerful love of two individuals who have mastered themselves. A love in which each person brings their own strength, their own identity, their own inner world into the connection. In this form, love becomes creative, elevating, and transformative. It challenges both individuals to grow. It is not a refuge from life, but a force that pushes them to live more courageously. This kind of love is only accessible to someone who has confronted their weaknesses and turned them into strength. Someone who has built a self that can stand firm, even in solitude. Someone who does not seek another person to escape themselves, but to share themselves. For Nietzsche, the beginning of all healthy love is the same, a deep commitment to forming a strong relationship with oneself. Without self-love, affection becomes distorted. With it, affection becomes a source of vitality. Only when you become complete within yourself does your love stop being poison and start being power. Nietzsche believed that true self-love begins with a confrontation, a willingness to face oneself without illusions. Most people avoid this confrontation because it exposes their fears, their contradictions, and their unfulfilled potential. Instead of examining their inner life, they distract themselves with relationships, admiration, or constant activity. But Nietzsche argued that without this honest introspection, a person cannot build the inner strength needed for mature love. They remain divided within, and a divided person will always bring conflict into their relationships. Self-love for Nietzsche is not an emotion but an achievement. It is something built through self-discipline, self-honesty, and the courage to stand alone. It means learning to generate meaning from within instead of relying on another person to give you a sense of purpose. When someone has not achieved this, their love becomes possessive because they fear losing the foundation they have placed in another human being. Their partner becomes a source of identity rather than a companion in life. The relationship becomes a fragile construction, easily shaken by doubt, distance, or disagreement. But Nietzsche's ideal individual stands on their own ground. They are capable of solitude. They do not seek love to escape loneliness, but to enrich a life already rooted in self-respect. This capacity for solitude is not coldness, it is freedom. The person who can be alone without collapsing is the person who can love without clinging. They are able to give affection that does not demand emotional payment. They can allow the other person to grow, change, and express independence because their own stability is not threatened by it. When someone develops this inner foundation, their relationships transform. Instead of approaching love with fear or insecurity, they approach it with curiosity and vitality. They do not obsess over whether they are worthy of love because they know their worth independently of any external validation. This allows them to engage with another person from a place of authenticity, without masks, without manipulation, without hidden desperation. Nietzsche viewed this transformation as a kind of self-overcoming. Each individual must rise above their inner fragility, their inherited beliefs, their past wounds, and the expectations imposed by society. They must carve their own path and form their own values. This process creates a self capable of offering love that liberates rather than confines, a self that inspires their partner not through dependence, but through strength. In relationships, this strength manifests as emotional clarity. A person who loves themselves does not interpret every disagreement as rejection. They do not react with jealousy because they do not feel threatened by the partner's individuality. They do not crumble when faced with challenges because their identity is not built upon another person's approval. Their love is firm, grounding, and steady. Healthy relationships flourish in this space. When two individuals love themselves, their connection becomes a meeting of two complete beings rather than a merging of two incomplete ones. There is room for growth, challenge, honesty, and even conflict, because the foundation of the relationship is not fear but respect. Nietzsche believed that this kind of love has the potential to elevate both individuals, pushing them toward greater self-realization. Love, in this sense, becomes not a refuge from life but a partner in the pursuit of becoming. It becomes a force that strengthens rather than weakens. It becomes a path toward expansion rather than collapse. Nietzsche believed that love reaches its highest form when two individuals approach it not as a way to complete themselves, but as a way to elevate themselves. He insisted that genuine love should challenge, provoke growth, and awaken dormant potential in both people. Love, in his philosophy, is not a sanctuary for comfort or an escape from personal responsibility. It is a catalyst that pushes individuals toward greater strength, clarity, and self-mastery. When love emerges from two strong selves, it becomes a force capable of shaping character, rather than dissolving it. This type of love demands a certain internal readiness. A person must have already cultivated a strong sense of identity, built on their own values and inner convictions. Without this, they risk dissolving into the relationship, allowing their individuality to weaken under the weight of emotional dependency. Nietzsche warned that many relationships fail precisely because one or both partners have not yet become themselves. They enter love not with a solid inner core, but with instability, hoping that the relationship will provide the stability they lack. But unstable foundations cannot sustain deep connection. To Nietzsche, becoming oneself is the first step toward the kind of love that does not poison. He often spoke of the individual who is in a constant process of becoming, someone who is willing to shed outdated beliefs, confront personal shadows, and push beyond self-limiting habits. This inner evolution is essential because love between two stagnant individuals cannot produce growth. Only when each partner is committed to becoming the strongest version of themselves can love become a shared ascent rather than a shared decline. When a person has reached this level of inner solidity, their love shifts in quality. It becomes less about emotional consumption and more about mutual empowerment. They do not love someone to escape life, but to engage more deeply with it. They do not seek a partner to fill emotional gaps, but to share the energy of two full lives. In this sense, Nietzsche saw love as a creative act, an expression of overflowing strength. The individual who loves from abundance inspires their partner simply by being grounded in themselves. This kind of love is not threatened by independence or difference. The self-loving individual does not panic when their partner explores their own interests or seeks personal growth. Instead, they welcome it because they recognize that individuality fuels the vitality of the relationship. Nietzsche believed that the highest form of love allows each person to remain fully themselves, never diminishing their uniqueness for the sake of harmony. In fact, he argued that forced harmony weakens love, while authentic individuality strengthens it. In this dynamic, conflict is not a sign of failure but a sign of engagement. When two strong individuals love each other, disagreements can become opportunities for deeper understanding. Each partner challenges the other to think more clearly, grow more boldly, and live more honestly. Nietzsche embraced this idea of love as a mutual sharpening, where two truths collide not to destroy one another, but to create something stronger. Love becomes a forge rather than a fragile shelter. This vision of love stands in sharp contrast to the possessive, dependent love that emerges from insecurity. Nietzsche rejected the idea that love should require the dissolution of self. Instead, he believed that love should amplify selfhood. The more each person becomes themselves, the more powerful the connection becomes. Authentic love, therefore, is not about merging into one identity. It is about two individuals walking side by side, each carrying their own strength. When love is lived in this way, it becomes a source of vitality. It energizes rather than exhausts. It inspires courage rather than fear. It opens possibilities rather than narrowing them. This is the love Nietzsche believed could elevate human life, a love that strengthens both partners and allows them to grow beyond what they could have achieved alone. Nietzsche believed that the true test of love is not how passionately it begins, but how it shapes the individuals involved over time. If love weakens you, blinds you, or diminishes your ability to stand on your own, then it was never love in the Nietzschean sense. It was attachment born from fear. But if love strengthens your resolve, sharpens your mind, and deepens your commitment to becoming who you are meant to be, then it is a force worthy of being welcomed into your life. For Nietzsche, love must never be an escape from yourself. It must be a return to yourself intensified. In this final stage of his vision, love becomes a path of mutual elevation. Two individuals who have developed self-respect and inner independence can meet without trying to possess or complete one another. They meet as creators, as builders of their own lives, who choose to intertwine their paths not out of desperation, but out of overflowing strength. In this form, love is free because it has nothing to fear. It does not fear loss because it is not built on dependency. It does not fear change because it recognizes that growth is part of life. It does not fear conflict because both partners understand that honest tension can deepen connection. This love, born from two strong selves, becomes a force of transformation. It encourages each person to rise above their limitations, to learn from their failures, and to embrace responsibility for their inner world. It demands courage because true intimacy exposes one's deepest vulnerabilities. Yet this vulnerability is no longer a threat when the individual has learned to rely on themselves. Instead, vulnerability becomes a space for authentic connection, a place where two complete beings share their truths without collapsing into one another. Nietzsche's warning remains clear. Love without self-love becomes poison. It becomes a cycle of projection, idealization, and eventual resentment. It suffocates rather than liberates. But when grounded in self-mastery, love becomes a powerful ally in the process of becoming. It becomes a source of vitality that does not drain but replenishes. It becomes, in Nietzsche's words, a form of noble friendship, where each partner inspires the other to rise higher. The conclusion of Nietzsche's philosophy on love is not a dismissal of romance, but a call for higher standards. He did not reject love, he rejected the weak versions of it. He rejected the forms of love that make individuals smaller instead of greater. What he ultimately taught is that the foundation of all meaningful connection begins within. If you have cultivated strength, clarity, and independence, then your love will not be poison. It will be power. And if this message resonates with you, if you believe that love can be something nobler, something transformative, consider subscribing to the channel. There is much more to explore, and your journey towards self-understanding is only beginning.